featuring the Arizona Cardinals. Talk about it.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Locked On Cardinals. Alex Clancy here live on a Wednesday. Thanks for hanging out. Follow me on Twitter, Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards per usual. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. Hard Knocks in season, first episode tonight, HBO Max. Cardinals are featured. I'm going to talk about what I want to see, what I think we'll see, and what it means. Then I'm going to dedicate the next two segments, breaking down each game of the next 2 weeks, both interdivisional, both NFC West. Next segment will be the Rams. The final segment will be San Francisco 49ers in Mexico City. The two most pivotal games so far in the season for the Arizona Cardinals. Every game is pivotal in the NFL, 100%. And to save the season, the Cardinals need to win one, if not both of these games. And that's something that I'm going to break down a little bit more in depth. Tomorrow, I'm going to talk with Travis Rogers from Locked On Rams. The Rams season hasn't gone as planned. I'm curious to hear his thoughts on a super top-heavy roster that hasn't really mustered a whole lot, even with the offseason acquisitions or additions of Bobby Wagner and Allen Robinson. So that's going to be tomorrow on the Crossover Thursday. And tomorrow, you can also check me out with Tyler Rowland on Locked On NFL Thursday on the national show. We're going to preview Thursday Night Football. We're going to talk about week 10 through week 9, surprise teams, and then our favorite matchups in week 10, as we usually do. But again, thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen each and every day. Now, Hard Knocks in season. This is what we've been waiting for. Probably skin off the top. We're not going to get the in-depth that we want, but I had the executive producer on during the offseason, and it was very, very interesting. Steve Trout joined me, and he was executive director of the All or Nothing series with the Cardinals in 2015. So he's intimately familiar with the Arizona Cardinals, Steve Keim, Michael Bidwell, etc. And he came on and he told me that his favorite moment, I believe he said his favorite moment in the 20 plus years that he's been doing this, was the Cardinals-Packers game. Playoff game in 2015, the two Hail Marys by Aaron Rodgers, and then the Larry Fitzgerald catch and run, and then the flip to Larry Fitzgerald for the touchdown in overtime. It was fascinating to hear him talking. He talked about some other, teams that were up for, Hard Knocks in season, and they chose the Cardinals. I'm fascinated to see how this is going to turn out. Now, a couple things that I want to see, and leave what you want to see in the chat. I'm doing this live. What I want to see is who the true leaders are of this team. We already saw the clip, and if you haven't, you'll see it. The commercials all over the place. Buda Baker in the locker room in a pure leadership role like we know that he is. We'll see that. I want to see Cliff. I want to see Kyler. I want to see, Hollywood Brown in there. I want to see J.J. Watt and Zach Allen, their relationship. I want to see what's made Byron Murphy emerge as a CB1 from year 3 to year 4, where we didn't necessarily see this was going to happen. We saw it happen during the first part of last year, but not necessarily expecting it after the downfall of last season for him to emerge as a CB1 like he has. Zaven Collins, I want to see his growth from year 1 to year 2. Like, there are so many fascinating storylines surrounding this team. And getting a personal, in-depth look at them, not only as football players, but as people, is going to fascinate me. So the top 3 things that I want to see are who the true leaders are, because it can't be faked. And Steve Trout even said, he joined Jody Ayler from Fox Sports 910 earlier today, and he said that if people try to ham it up for the camera, they'll just turn the cameras around. They want to see true emotion, true personalities. And if your personality jumps off the page like Buda Baker's does without him trying any extra, they're going to show that. They're going to spotlight that. I want to see who the true leaders are. And you can't fake that. You can't fake that. That's number 1. Number 2, I'm I just want to see Kyler Murray. As much Kyler Murray content as I can ingest through my eyes and ears, I'm going to want to. And he's another fascinating character because he's somewhat maligned for being quiet and liking to play video games, which is ridiculous. People equate that to bad leadership, which I don't think is necessarily correlative directly. And I want to see what he's like. I want to see the demonstrative Kyler Murray that we don't see outside of the clips that people like to put up when something goes wrong and he's demonstrative on the sidelines. I want to see the other Kyler Murray. I want to see the more in-depth, just personalized Kyler Murray. Okay? And DRB417, thank you. I want to see Cliff. That's the one. That's the crown jewel. That's not because I don't think Cliff should be the head coach. That's not because I don't think Cliff ever should have been hired to begin with. I'm removing that from my cerebellum and my watchability. I'm fascinated more than anything to see Cliff Kingsbury in his element. I'm curious to see if there's really any sort of teeth behind him or if he's really just a bona fide dictionary definition of a player's coach, a PE teacher, and not a history teacher who's going to fail you if you miss one class in college. An enforcer. I'm curious to see if I've been wrong this entire time about his players coach to enforceability coach ratio. Because I think at this point, 90-10, 85-15, just because of the in-game stuff. The in-game stuff doesn't really matter. Like it does, but it's in practice. Like Phil Jackson, perfect example. And I'm not going to compare Cliff Kingsbury to Phil Jackson, who's won, 11 or 12 rings, 13 rings as a player and a coach. Phil Jackson said something like this, and I'm paraphrasing, that if you practice and coach well during practice, you don't have to coach during the game or coach as much. And you'd see Phil Jackson just sit on the sidelines. The Lakers are in a slump. They'd get their way out of it. He wouldn't call timeouts. And sure, there'd be demonstrative times, but the actual demeanor of a coach on the sidelines during a game can be misconstrued in the sense that it's more of one thing or more of one thing than it actually is. You get the enforcer mentality from practice. You get the enforcer mentality when things go wrong in practice, and that translates to the game. Now, Cliff can yell at refs. I'm sure everybody does that. You can get into it with players at times with him and Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray's won every battle I've seen on the sideline. So that's not necessarily a great look for Cliff. But all in all, throughout the extent of Hard Knocks in season with the Arizona Cardinals being featured, I want to see Cliff in his rarest form. And I will be the first one in line to eat my words, to shove a shoe in my mouth if I am wrong about Cliff and his demeanor and his actual angle on being the head coach of an NFL franchise. I will be the first one. And you know what? I hope I'm wrong. I do. There's a lot of things that I say that I hope I'm wrong about. But reading the tea leaves, seeing trends, seeing things that have happened with this organization over the last decade, even though others think that I may be wrong, I just sometimes say things that people don't want to hear. So I'm okay with that. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. These next two games are pivotal for the Arizona Cardinals. Next three really going into the bye week, because if the Cardinals go 1-2 or 0-3, somebody's getting fired. I don't know who it's going to be. Somebody should be getting fired, let's say. But let's live in a world where we're just going to break down the next two games in a vacuum, in their entirety, and talk about these next two pivotal NFC West matchups if the Cardinals want to tread water, at least in the NFC West, starting 0-3 in division. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. I will be talking about the LA Rams matchup coming up this weekend next. First, this episode is brought to you by SimpliSafe. Okay? If you thought about securing your home with home security, but have been putting it off, you'll want to listen up. Right now, Locked On Cardinals listeners can order the #1 rated SimpliSafe home security system for 50% off. This is their biggest deal of the year, and you don't want to miss it. Okay? Here's why I love it. SimpliSafe, there's a couple things with SimpliSafe that are like, oh, wow, why didn't anybody else think of that? Motion sensors, when they just go off because Mittens, the cat, is walking around and jumping on the piano like a maniac, and sensors go off, and you think a burglar's in there, but they're not. SimpliSafe has smart sensors that alleviates that from happening. Okay? When it comes to SimpliSafe in an emergency, there's 24/7 professional monitoring agents that use Fast Protect technology exclusively from SimpliSafe to capture critical evidence and verify if a threat is real, so you can get priority police response and it not just being Mittens the cat jumping around like a crazy man. SimpliSafe is a whole home security with advanced sensors for every room, windows, and door, HD security cameras for inside and out, smarter ways to detect motion that alert you only when a threat is real, and even hazard sensors that detect fires, floods, and other threats to your home. 24/7 professional monitoring, service costs less than $1 a day, less than half the price of ADT's traditional professionally installed system. And with the top-rated SimpliSafe app, stay in complete control of your system anytime, anywhere, arm or disarm, unlock for a guest, access your cameras, or adjust system settings. Don't miss your chance to save big on the only security system I recommend. Get 50% off any new SimpliSafe at simplisafe.com/LockedOnNFL today. This is their biggest discount of the year, so don't wait. That's simplisafe.com/LockedOnNFL. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. I am over the moon excited about Hard Knocks in season tonight. Over the moon excited. I think it's 9 o'clock local time in Arizona. And when, chances are I'm getting too excited, because I want to see some things exposed. Exposed has a bad connotation. I'm not using it that way. Exposed is like, the Band-Aid's ripped off. Like I said this whole offseason, we are going to find out who this team is, who the players are, who the coaches are, who the front office is. The Band-Aid will be ripped off for better or worse this season. And then the exposure of what Hard Knocks in season is going to give us will be more than what we normally would get in a regular season. So you just take it. It's like whatever it is going to be more information that we normally have. And I'm fascinated to get more information inside one of the more enigmatic, organizations in sports, not just NFL. Michael Bidwell, Steve Keim, they keep a lot of things tight to the vest. I say tongue-in-cheek that they run their organization like they've won 10 Super Bowls. They're like, you know what? We got it from here. We've done this before. We've won perennially. So just let us do our thing. They haven't, but that's how they run their organization. I'm fascinated to see Cliff Kingsbury in his element, Kyler Murray, and who the true leaders are of this organization. Now, pivoting to Sunday with the LA Rams. Again, Thursday, I will be doing my crossover Thursday with Travis Rogers of ESPN LA and Locked On Rams. Obviously, we're going to be talking about the Cardinals-Rams matchup at SoFi Stadium on Sunday afternoon. This is what the Cardinals need to do to beat the Rams. And I'm going to go more in depth into this on Friday, but I did want to take a segment here because this is really important. This is it. 3-7, you don't come back from 3-7. Good, but 3-7 is really like you're hanging on by the thinnest of threads. They need to get after Matthew Stafford. They need to get after Matthew Stafford hard, fast, and relentlessly. And traditionally, like with really, really good wide receivers and really, really great home run threats, I don't know if you'd say Cooper Kupp is a home run threat. I don't think he is. It's not that he's not fast. It's not that he's not the best route runner in the game or one of them. I mean, him and Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs, Keenan Allen when he's healthy. There's very few like 1%ers. DeAndre Hopkins. There's very few 1%ers that, that are like, that can do everything. But, I don't think Cooper Kupp's a home run threat. He's not DK Metcalf. Okay. He's not guys like that. He's not Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, etc. But I'm usually in the camp of don't give up the big play. Don't give up the big play. I'd much rather take death by 1,000 cuts, which gives the opposing offense an opportunity to make more mistakes than an 80-yard bomb to start the game like we saw in Minnesota last year, even though the Cardinals won that game. Blitz all night. Remember the Titans. Blitz the entire game. And if you give them the big play, give them the big play. At this point, you've got nothing to lose. The Arizona Cardinals have nothing to lose. Because if they don't shift trajectory soon, uncomfortable conversations are going to have to be had. That's like the tagline of my podcast from time to time. Uncomfortable conversations are going to have to be had. So try some wrong. Try some wrong. And getting after a hobbled Matthew Stafford, I think it's his arm. I feel like it. I don't know this. I'm going to ask Travis Rogers tomorrow of Locked On Rams if he's more hurt than people are letting on. Like the UCL, the Tommy John area of the arm and the elbow, with how Matthew Stafford throws the ball, I mean, he's like a pitcher that throws curveballs only. 12 to 6ers are gonna rip up your UCL at times. So I'm curious to see why they've been so Death Valley on offense. Bad loss against Tampa Bay, giving up 60 yards in 30 seconds to Tom Brady. Like, I'm fascinated to see, but they need to get after Matthew Stafford. They've got to cut the head off the snake because the run game has been dormant. The offensive line isn't as good as it was. No Boom got hurt, and Andrew Whitfield isn't there anymore. Or Whitwer, sorry. They need to one thing only to start foundation. Blitz. Everybody. Isaiah Simmons, doesn't matter. Be okay with giving up the big play because the more you get into Matthew Stafford's kitchen, the better chance you have of winning. And when it comes to the Rams, especially, they beat the Rams last year at SoFi, and Kyler Murray went nuts. It was early in the season. Kyler Murray was looking like an MVP. So they got momentum, I guess, against a team. That was their first win against Sean McVay under Cliff Kingsbury. Or first win in totality since Sean McVay took over. I believe that's the stat. So if they can go into SoFi, it'll kind of count as like a win and a half. It's like beating the big brother. And I said last year that it's almost better if the Rams win the Super Bowl because things are going to fall apart after that. Super Bowl 1, Von Miller left like, well, I got a ring. And he ended up going to a better team in the AFC. But like, it's almost better you just, okay, give him one. And they were supremely lucky to win the Super Bowl. Okay? They were a cover zero call from Todd Bowles that sprung Cooper Kupp to get the game-winning field goal after Tom Brady had a massive comeback. Cam Akers couldn't hold on to the ball. Tampa Bay should have won that game. They didn't. Okay, moving on to the championship game. San Francisco blocked a punt, which kept Aaron Rodgers from making the NFC Championship game. Like, they got lucky last year to win the Super Bowl. They did, in my opinion. And they weren't as good as a Super Bowl team normally is. They had bounces fall when they should have. So if the Cardinals can exploit an older team from the quarterback position and a run game that has pretty much been dormant, crazier things have happened. And that would really, really light the spark on this team going into Monday night of next week in prime time in Mexico City against the 49ers, of whom I'm going to break down that game a little bit next because 3 NFC West matchups in a row. Seattle didn't go so well. If they can beat the Rams and then go into Mexico City on a neutral field and beat the 49ers, people are going to be talking completely differently about the Arizona Cardinals into week 12. They will. And I know it seems like a long shot right now, but there is a way to beat the San Francisco 49ers also, and I'm going to talk about it next. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by Blue Nile. As the original online jeweler, Blue Nile offers the largest selection of independently graded diamonds and pieces priced specifically below traditional retailers. Blue Nile has helped millions of couples, millions with an M, create their perfect engagement ring, and their easy online tools let you choose the diamond shape, size, and clarity, as well as setting style. Blue Nile's bench jewelers will then help you handcraft a perfect one-of-a-kind engagement ring. And one of the best parts about this, and I highlight this every time I do this live read, is they have 24/7 experts on hand for chat or over the phone. So if you don't know what the hell you're doing, they've got you covered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Shop stress-free with Blue Nile's 100% satisfaction guarantee. All Blue Nile orders are insured and shipped for free in discreet packaging. They also offer overnight shipping if you're in a rush. Make your moments sparkle with Blue Nile. Go to BlueNile.com and use code LOCKEDON to save $50 on your purchase of $500 or more. That's BLUENILE.com, code LOCKEDON to save $50 or more on your purchase of $50 on your purchase of $500 or more. BlueNile.com, code Locked On. And I do get to talk about these guys. They're, because they're local in Arizona, I've got an affinity for them. If you live in a city-state like ours, sunny state like ours, it's very likely that you have had a few people stop by offering you free solar. The truth is that many of these companies aren't local, and because of that, they're using misleading tactics and end up overcharging homeowners. If you've considered solar, but something felt off, you're really going to like mysolarnerd.com. Their mission is simple: help you get the best solar system to fit your needs. The guys at mysolarnerd.com are local and understand the nuances of going solar in Arizona. And they've been doing this for a while and understand that an educated customer is a happy customer. Their no pressure approach will make sure all of your questions get answered. Okay. Solar should mean saving money in Arizona. That's what they firmly believe. They'll help you figure out all the credits and incentives you may qualify for, and they'll make sure that your transition to solar is as smooth as possible by managing the entire project for you and keeping you updated along the way. Our listeners will get a $50 Amazon gift card when they book a no-commitment evaluation. Just keep in mind this promotion is only for our listeners that are homeowners. Visit mysolarnerd.com and select Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us section. Make the switch to solar on your terms. Start your research process by visiting mysolarnerd.com today and show Locked On some love by letting them know we sent you. Folks, going solar doesn't need to be complicated. Mysolar.nerd makes it easy. Hard Knocks tonight. Excited. Rams, beatable. Blitz Matthew Stafford. That's like a haiku of the first two segments of this podcast. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. If you're not following, if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do so. Just search Locked On Cardinals. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like on this video. Turn on the notifications so you know when videos are posted. I'll be doing Crossover Thursday with Travis Rogers at Locked On Rams tomorrow. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen each and every day, free and available on all platforms. I already told you how the Cardinals can beat the Rams. This is how the Cardinals can beat the 49ers. Unlock Kyler Murray. Just unlock him. What we've seen, and things are trends, and then things become close to fact as possible. Kyler Murray, in his element and not boxed in, is the best Kyler Murray. Well, duh. I mean, how does that? So you just have to wait for a play to break down for Kyler Murray to do his thing? Not necessarily, but it works. The touchdown drive, was sparked by a broken play that Kyler Murray was able to rip off a 20-plus yard run in an effort to set up a touchdown pass to DeAndre Hopkins. Okay? It's consistent as gravity at this point. That was the best drive of the game for the Cardinals. Now, how do the Cardinals do that without, like, calling plays that they know will fail so it turns into a broken play? Moving the pocket is something the Cardinals don't really seem to do. And I don't know why that is. Like, if you want Kyler Murray to be a pocket passer, if you want to move the pocket so he can roll out one way or the other, do it. Do it. It doesn't have to be between the initial tackle box. You see coaches and offensive minds moving the pocket all the time to make up for deficiencies. And the Cardinals just don't do it. Let Kyler Murray. So, and there is, and we're not going to get any sort of insight about this for Hard Knocks in season, I don't believe. But, like, I'm fascinated to see why the delay of games are being called. Why they have to call timeouts. Is it Cliff? Is it Kyler? Is Cliff not getting the play in on time? Is Kyler not making the checks on time? Like, it seems like they'll go long bouts or long spells without having any sort of issues. Where they're at the line with 15 seconds left, and there's a check here, a check there. You hike the ball with 3 seconds left, which is, eons, which is so much time between 3 seconds and when the play clock runs out. And then there's times where they're getting to the line at 8 seconds and they have to call a timeout. What I would love to see from here on out is them getting the play in faster to completely negate the possibility of there being a delay of game or needing to burn a timeout with 8 minutes left in the first quarter to avoid a 5-yard delay of game penalty. And let Kyler do his thing. For better or worse, give him 3 plays, let him check to the right one, and giddy up. Because Kyler Murray outside of the pocket is where he lives. And it's just something that we need to accept. Because making him a pocket passer will protect him, you'd think, if the offensive line was healthy. Him being able to step up in the pocket, read defenses, you'd think would be the best. But especially with Aaron Donald coming up and then Nick Bosa and Fred Warner and Javon Kinlaw, I'm not sure if he's completely at full health. Like, the San Francisco 49ers defense is terror. It's nightmare fuel. And with the offensive line in the situation that it is, and we'll see if they get more healthy in 2 weeks. Hopefully they will, and they'll have that extra day, that extra 24 hours, because it's a Monday night game. they've got to try some wrong, especially with the front seven that the 49ers bring in every week. And if that means Kyler's just like, here's the keys. Go make it happen. They have such an eclectic wide receiver room now. Robbie Anderson, it'll be fine. I feel like Robbie Anderson's in line to just shut some people up. Because listen, that drop was a really bad drop across the middle. Kyler Murray dropped a dime, huge chunk game that would have been a first down, dropped it. Not the best look. And then he had a catch for -4 yards as well that game. They've got DeAndre Hopkins, who in my opinion, he's still the best receiver in football. You can have your speed. You can have Justin Jefferson, obviously, Jamar Chase. They're great. They're young. I still take DeAndre Hopkins. Then you have Rondale Moore. They've unlocked Rondale Moore. 10 targets a game in space. It's a beautiful thing to watch him in space. He's so fast. He's got good hands. He runs good routes. When he's healthy, he's going to be an absolute weapon for this team. Got Robbie Anderson. You got Zach Ertz. You got the perfect mix of fast and slow. The perfect mix of fast and possession receivers. And just get Kyler Murray some time. And by getting him some time, he'll be able to make split-second decisions, which is where he eats. It's where he eats. And that's the way to beat the 49ers. Unlock them. 100%. Better or worse. Let's roll. And I feel like if they can do that and not be as rigid and just be more, hey, K1, go win us a football game, I feel like it puts the Cardinals in a much better position than predicting what play will be next to call predicated upon the defense that the 49ers are playing, because I don't necessarily at this point trust Kingsbury's calling playability, and I haven't for some time. Let Kyler Murray eat. Let him roll. And hopefully that would be a recipe for success for the next 2 weeks for the Cardinals. Get after Matthew Stafford, get a W in LA, and then go to Mexico City, unlock Kyler Murray, and the Cardinals win 2 in a row and welcome in the Chargers to town the next week. And then they go into their bye week after. That would be a perfect turnaround for the Cardinals after their 3-6 start. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. I will talk to you tomorrow on a crossover Thursday with Travis Rogers.